Aside from some business news now here on Prime News Paris, and China is hosting dozens of African leaders in one of the biggest summits in years. Yuka Roya from our business desk joins me in the studio. Hi, Yuka.
Hi, Inka. Well, this summit is called the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, and it was launched back in 2000 and became a platform for Beijing to announce massive loans for infrastructure projects as part of President Xi Jinping's Belt and Road Initiative. But after a series of high-profile defaults and widespread debt distress on the African continent, plus a slowing economy at home, Beijing is having to rethink its strategy. Brian Quinn reports.
With traditional dancers and an honor guard, China rolled out the red carpet for 53 African heads of state visiting Beijing for the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation. At nearly $168 billion in commerce for the first half of the year alone, China is Africa's top trading partner. The continent is at the heart of Beijing's massive Belt and Road Initiative aimed at securing access to Africa's vast natural resources in exchange for huge infrastructure investments.
China will continue to deepen infrastructure cooperation with African countries and the African Union and jointly build and operate the major landmark projects that have already been started.
China, though, is actually in the process of paring down its investment portfolio in Africa. Last year, it approved 13 new commitments worth just over $4.6 billion, a slight uptick over the past 3 years, but well below 2016's peak of more than $28 billion. President Xi Jinping now touting small and beautiful projects rather than massive undertakings like deepwater ports. The shift follows official debt defaults by Zambia and Ghana, with many other countries considered to be in debt distress.
People really need to reflect on the old model because the old approach is no longer suitable for this new situation.
China's domestic troubles are also pushing it to reduce its investments in Africa as a years-long real estate crisis, slumping consumer demand, and a shrinking population raise the pressure on Beijing to spend on stimulating its own economy.
And Yuka, meanwhile, Vladimir Putin says he expects Xi Jinping to come to another summit next month in Russia.
The Russian president said that he was waiting for his Chinese counterpart to attend an upcoming summit of the BRICS group of emerging economies as he met China's vice president Han Zheng in Vladivostok in Russia's Far East. The BRICS, founded by Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, has since expanded to include others like the UAE and Iran, representing almost half of the world's population together. Its members are set to meet next month in the Russian city of Kazan. As Russia increasingly looks to China for economic and other support, Putin and Han also hailed bilateral ties as reaching an unprecedented high level.
Now we're going to move on to Volkswagen because the management there has faced a showdown with unions over new cost cuts.
Yeah, well, it's the management's attempt to defend its cost-cutting plans. Union members, though, were up in arms as the company's leaders spoke before 25,000 workers. The chief finance officer warned Volkswagen had 1 to 2 years to turn things around as it urged staff to cooperate in the ongoing cost-cutting drive that includes a 20% reduction in administrative personnel cost. The meeting came a day after the German auto giant flagged it could no longer rule out plant closures and layoffs. A leading union representative described the threat as a declaration of bankruptcy. Meanwhile, Germany's coalition government has agreed to propose tax reductions to boost the use of electric cars after an abrupt end to a subsidies program last December led to a sharp decline in sales. Speaking about the current situation at Volkswagen, the Labour minister called for a reasonable solution to the turmoil.
The board of directors, in consultation with the works councils, must ensure that a reasonable and socially acceptable solution is found, and that Volkswagen remains strong. After all, Germany must remain a car country. It's our largest company, and as I said, many jobs are linked to it, at the sites and beyond.
Now you could take us through what the markets are looking like.
Well, global stocks started the day tumbling following Wednesday's sharp sell-off on following Tuesday's sharp sell-off on Wall Street. Tokyo's Nikkei fell as much as 4%, and Paris closed down 1% earlier today. US shares are shaky as they try to recover. All three main indices are in the red currently after starting the trading day on the rise. However mild it was. Nvidia shares are down 2% after plunging 9% during the previous session. This following a Bloomberg report that the US Justice Department sent subpoenas to the chipmaker as part of an antitrust investigation.
Now, Yuka, September brings fashion weeks across the globe, with New York and Paris gearing up for catwalk events in the coming days. But one has just wrapped up in Ukraine.
Yeah, well, the last time Ukrainian Fashion Week took place in Kyiv was before Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. But after 3 seasons of decamping elsewhere, the country's designers once again showed their collections on home soil. The struggle of war has had a profound effect on what's on show, as designers hope to display both resilience and creativity. Vedika Bahel has the story.
For Ukrainian fashion designer Elena Goletz, it's the first time her designs have hit the runway in almost 3 years. Kyiv welcomed its first fashion week since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, and the ongoing war has influenced not just the people, but the showcase.
I even have a soundtrack that starts with the words, "Sorry, I'm going to cry." With the words that we have to keep living.
For the designers, the war effort was reflected in the clothes and decor, showcasing the people's suffering and strengths, with war veterans even taking to the catwalk with prosthetic limbs. According to the OECD, Ukraine's economy shrank by over 29% in 2022, with its production capacity further damaged by power shortages and supply chain disruptions. Last year, though, as firms and households adapted to wartime conditions, Ukraine saw almost 5% real GDP growth. And designers feel the return of Fashion Week also marks a significant contribution to the economy.
It's not just about the fashion show, it's about the fact that we work, we support the economy, we develop. Behind this show are thousands of people who have received their salaries, and we have paid all the taxes, from music, lighting, tailoring, fabric, accessories, designers. These are all jobs. This is the economy. This is all very important.
Before this reopening on home soil, fashion weeks abroad had offered their runways to showcase Ukrainian talent, and many designers who have moved operations out of Ukraine are likely to be present in the upcoming European fashion weeks.
Vedika Bahel with that report, and that's it for business.
Thank you, Yuka. It's really nice to see a nice story coming out of Ukraine apart from war and conflict. Thank you, Yuka, for that update.